Israel is bracing itself for a counterstrike from Iran and its proxies. We'll talk about that. And we'll also focus on the power of forgiveness, a story you don't want to miss that's coming out of the Amish country, teaching us all about how to forgive. And then we'll focus on the American miracle. America's hope starts now. We're focusing on the tensions mounting in the Middle East as Israel continues to protect itself against the incessant firing of rockets from Hezbollah to its north. That's the Haifa region, beautiful area, but it's come under a lot of fire all throughout the northern region of Israel. And of course, there's the enemies to the south, which is Hamas, and which is now under the leadership of Sinwar. And then there's also the Houthi rebels and Iran itself. Joining me now, Steve Weil. He is a member, or the CEO, I should say, of Friends of Israel Defense Forces. And Steve, we were talking just last week about this and the fact that people have been anticipating this strike from Iran any moment, that it is imminent as it seeks to retaliate against some of the strikes that Israel has carried out. Talk to me about what you're hearing from your sources.
Yeah, the Iranians and their proxies, they were going to strike Thursday night. There was serious intelligence. That was their plan. They recalibrated. They saw, in terms of our American assets in the Arabian Gulf, our American assets in the Mediterranean, be it air assets, sea assets, land assets, as well as Israel's assets in terms of its missile defense, the David Sling, the Iron Dome, the Arrow 2 and the Arrow 3 systems. And the Iranians didn't want to be embarrassed like they were in April when they sent 355 ballistic missiles that actually left the Earth's atmosphere to come back in and strike Israel. They sent cruise missiles, they sent drones, they sent all kinds of rockets, and they came up with nothing. They didn't want a repeat of that. And that's why they called off Thursday night's strike. They're recalibrating. We don't know. I mean, not that I know of, it's classified, what they're attempting to do, what they're trying to do. But we are expecting something, be it tonight, tomorrow night. We're expecting something imminently from Iran and its proxies.
Steve, one thing we do know is that Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin has stepped up the show of force from the United States with some of our vessels already, naval vessels already in the region, and also ordering a submarine to go there, which can fire those missiles to which you speak. All of this is showing a show of force of Israel's allies. And is that one of the reasons, as you stated, why Iran is recalibrating and perhaps taking a second look at this? Might they even, stop and not carry out some sort of strike?
I don't believe so, and I'd like to share with you why. And again, take anything I say with a grain of salt, but there are two factors. One is in their culture. In our culture, we would view something like this as prudent, smart, and strategic. In their culture, it comes across as weakness. If they don't strike back, they're viewed as weak, they're perceived as weak amongst themselves, amongst their enemies, etc. So there's a psychological factor. There's a second factor, and that is this, that if there was a very credible offensive attack on Iran, which is something that I believe is crucial and necessary. In other words, where America is not just shooting down Iranian ballistic missiles or Iranian cruise missiles headed towards Israel, but as a function of Iran's nefarious evil ways, there's consequences. We strike their uranium enrichment facilities. We strike their plutonium enrichment facilities. We strike their intercontinental ballistic missile facilities, Parshin, Natanz, Arak, Combs, what they refer to as Combs, we call Fordo. If these facilities and many others would be struck and destroyed and eliminated, that would be a statement to Iran where they would think twice about doing anything. The problem and the challenge, and this has been the same situation with the Houthis, our forces have acted, and this is not based upon defensive and military vision. This is based upon the political calculations of the administration in Washington that we're only doing things that are defensive as opposed to going on the offensive. We all know the best defense is a strong offense. The Houthis in Yemen, the Iranians in Tehran, the Hezbollah in Lebanon, they just don't see America willing to act in an offensive way. And that's a problem. Because of that, the deterrence factor just isn't there. Now, we have incredible gratitude to General Austin and to the Central Command that oversees American forces in that part of the world under General Kurilla. These are wonderful people. They're great people. But they're not making the decisions from a political point of view. It's the Biden administration that's making the decisions. And that is a challenge because it lacks a deterrence towards these enemies.
So let's talk about that just a little bit more before I let you go. And that's the fact that there is a push for a ceasefire yet again. Germany and France and other countries in Europe are pushing for this. The United States Vice President Kamala Harris, who's now running for president, stated that the recent attack or the missile strike that Israel carried out to take out a school, but which they labeled as a Hamas tool that Hamas was using, actually using that school to fire off rockets towards Israel, not to mention some of those humanitarian areas also firing from those areas. And yet the Palestinians or Hamas has stated that 90 civilian casualties were happened as a result of that attack, and Vice President Kamala Harris stating that the civilian casualties are too much. Yet, Steve, this is a war. And
Kamala Harris made a mistake. It's unfortunately it's a sloppy mistake, and it's a sloppy mistake that Kamala has made many times. She apes what she hears from Hamas. Israel has given the names of over 40 terrorists that were eliminated in that strike. Okay, she adopted the fact that Hamas claimed there were 90 civilians killed. There's no corroboration, no proof yet that 90 people were even there. The only corroboration we have right now of the dead is over 40 terrorists. Most of them were Hamas terrorists. Some of them were Palestinian Islamic Jihad terrorists. These are all people who subscribe to the Islamism, to the Muslim Brotherhood ideology, that there has to be an annihilation of any Jew or any Christian on what they deem to be Muslim land. That's who was killed. That's the only ones we've been able to corroborate. Might there have been a number of civilians? That could be, but it's not even corroborated. And one thing is clear, that Hamas lied about 90 people, but she aped what the liars said. And it's just a sloppy mistake. You can't make those kind of mistakes that she made. Not if you want to be treated seriously on the issues.
Let me ask you, the ceasefire, it's back on the table. Should that be something that Bibi Netanyahu and Israel considers? Most notably and most important, to be sure that the hostages are returned.
So here's the challenge. A ceasefire is a good idea depending on the definition. Ceasefire means that Israel must control the Philadelphia corridor. That's where all of these Chinese, these Iranian, North Korean, and Russian bombs, horrific equipment was being smuggled in. That was the lifeline that gave the ability for Hamas to annihilate, to perpetrate the genocide of Jews along the Gaza circumference. That has to be prevented. So Israel can never give up the Philadelphia corridor. Secondly, it can't give up what's called the Nitzarim corridor, which controls the traffic flow. That it can't give up. If it means that it will not continue operations for 6 weeks, depending on how many hostages they're going to give up, because what Hamas is saying is, we'll give you 30, the classic liars. We don't know who's alive or who's dead. We'll give you 30. Some of them might be alive. Some of them might be dead. The problem is Hamas is not willing to give up male captives, male hostages. They're only willing to give up female hostages and what they deem as sick or weak. Well, the problem with that is you don't want to sell out your male hostages. Of the 114 hostages that are being held, we know that 44 are dead. How many are alive? We don't know. Is it 40? Is it 60? Is it 70? Is it 50? We don't know the exact number. It's got to be a deal that at least guarantees all of the live hostages. And it has to be a ceasefire, which is only a temporary ceasefire, because as you know, Hamas is trying to kill innocent Jews every day. They're trying that every day, as you just articulated, Kelly, shooting rockets. They've got missile launchers. Now, the good news is Hamas has lost the war. They're no longer a military, but they are a terrorist organization. And there are thousands of them being eliminated by the day, but there are thousands of them that are doing dastardly terrorist acts. These Muslim Brotherhood Palestinians have to be eradicated. They're an evil to Judaism, they're an evil to Christianity, they're an evil to Western civilization. And so if it's a temporary ceasefire, that's a different story than a permanent ceasefire.
Hi, everybody. I hope you're enjoying this episode so far of America's Hope. If you'd like to see it in its entirety, just click on the link below. Thanks for watching.